Good afternoon, everybody. It is October 16th, 2023, and we are in the Old Testament. We're in the book of 1 Kings. We're going to read chapter 9, verse 10 to chapter 10, verse 29 today. All right, so Solomon has built a magnificent temple for the Lord. He's built a gorgeous palace, meeting halls. Israel is becoming the envy of all the nations around it, just as God promised Abraham it would become. We just saw God promise Solomon, hey, you know what? You stay obedient to me, and this never ends. But as soon as you step away from me, it's going to start to come down. We're going to see a little bit more of Solomon's achievements. Kind of the crown jewel of this section is the arrival of the Queen of Sheba, who's heard of the magnificence of what Solomon's built. She's learned of how wise he is, and she wants to see it for herself. And she's so overcome that she basically places herself under Solomon as a vassal state. So, like I said, that's kind of the height of where Israel gets to. And then we immediately get a little section about horses. And if we go back to Deuteronomy 17, and God told Moses and the people that when you have a king, there's only three things that I'm going to consider a king can't do. That'll be a sin. One was accumulate wives for themselves, and that was the sin that got David. Accumulate wealth for themselves. David and Solomon, neither one of them did that, but we're going to find out that Solomon did the third, which is he accumulates horses for himself. And he goes back to Egypt to get the horses. And again, sin. It's a small sin, but you know what? It's a sin, and it's a sin that leads to another sin, that leads to another sin, that leads to another sin. That's why God is adamant on sin. None of it can stand. And as high as Solomon is, as high as Israel is, we're going to start to see the cracks come. And we're going to see that God wasn't fooling around when he said, hey, if you're going to sin, then I'm turning my back on you. I don't care what I promised you. You didn't fulfill your end, so I'm done. So let's go ahead and we're going to read 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 10 to 10:29. Now it happened at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the two houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. Hiram the king of Tyre had supplied Solomon with cedar and cypress and gold, as much as he desired. King Solomon then gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. Then Hiram went from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, but they did not please him. So he said, what kind of cities are these which you have given me, my brother? And he called them the land of Kabul, so they are to this day. Then Hiram sent the king 120 talents of gold. And this is the reason for the labor force which King Solomon raised, to build the house of the Lord, his own house, the Milo, the wall of Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer and burned it with fire and killed the Canaanites who dwelt in the city and had given it as a dowry to his daughter Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer, Lower Beth-horon, Baalat, and Tadmor in the wilderness in the land of Judah. All the storage cities that Solomon had, cities for his chariots and cities for his cavalry, and whatever Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem and Lebanon and in all the land of his dominion. All the people who were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, who were not of the children of Israel, that is, their descendants, those who were left in the land after them, whom the children of Israel had not been able to destroy completely, from these Solomon raised forced labor, as it is to this day. But of the children of Israel Solomon made no forced laborers, because they were men of war and his servants, his officers, his captains, commanders of his chariots, and his cavalry. Others were chiefs of the officials who were over Solomon's work, 550, who ruled over the people who did the work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up from the city of David to her house, which Solomon had built for her. Then he built the Milo. Now, 3 times a year, Solomon offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar of which he had built for the Lord, and he burnt incense with them on the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the temple. King Solomon also built a fleet of ships at Ezion-Gibor, which is near Eleth on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. Then Hiram sent his servants with the fleet, seamen who knew the sea. The pages don't want to turn. Seamen who knew the sea to work with the servants of Solomon, and they went to Ophir, and it required 420 talents of gold from there, and brought it to King Solomon. Now when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to test him with hard questions. She came to Jerusalem with a very great retinue, with camels that bore spices, very much gold and precious stones. And when she came to Solomon, she spoke with him about all that was in her heart. So Solomon answered all her questions. There was nothing so difficult for the king that he could not explain it to her. And when the queen of Sheba had seen all the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food on his table, the seating of his servants, the service of his waiters and their apparel, his cupbearers, and his entranceway by which he went up to the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, "It was a true report which I heard in my own land about your words and your wisdom. However, I did not believe the words until I came and saw them with my own eyes, and indeed the half was not told me. Your wisdom and prosperity exceed the fame of which I heard. Happy are your men, and happy are these your servants, who stand continually before you and hear your wisdom. Blessed be the Lord your God, who delighted in you, setting you on the throne of Israel, because the Lord has loved Israel forever. Therefore he made you king to do justice and righteousness." Then she gave the king 120 talents of gold, spices in great quantity, and precious stones. There never again became such abundance of spices as the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. Also the ships of Hiram, which brought gold from Ophir, brought great quantities of almug wood and precious stones from Ophir. And the king made steps of the almug wood for the house of the Lord and for the king's house, also harps and stringed instruments for singers. There never again came such almug wood, nor has like been seen to this day. Now King Solomon gave the queen of Sheba all she desired, whatever she asked, besides what Solomon had given her according to the royal generosity. So she turned and went to her own country, she and her servants. The weight of gold that came to Solomon yearly was 666 talents of gold. Besides that, from the traveling merchants, from the income of traders, from all the kings of Arabia, and from the governors of the country. And King Solomon made 200 large shields of hammered gold. 600 shekels of gold went into each shield. He also made 300 shields of hammered gold. 3 minas of gold went into each shield. The king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with pure gold. The throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round at the back. There were armrests on either side of the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood beside the armrests. 12 lions stood there, one on each side of the 6 steps. Nothing like this had been made for any other kingdom. All King Solomon's drinking vessels were gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were pure gold. Not one was silver, for this was accounted as nothing in the days of Solomon. For the king had merchant ships at sea with the fleet of Hiram. Once every 3 years, the merchant ships came bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and monkeys. So King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. Now all the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Each man brought his present, articles of silver and gold, garments, armor, spices, horses, and mules, at a set rate year by year. And Solomon gathered chariots and horsemen. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, whom he stationed in the chariot centers and with the king of Jerusalem. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and he made cedar trees as abundant as the sycamores which are in the lowland. Also Solomon had horses imported from Egypt and Kiva. The king's merchants brought them in Kiva at the current price. Now a chariot that was imported from Egypt cost 600 shekels of silver, and a horse 150. And thus through their agents they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Syria. May God bless reading His word. May God bless you. Bye.